This episode of the TRM podcast is brought to you by TRM, trusted IT solutions for today's business challenges.
My name is Norman Carr, the president of TRM Technologies. I'm pleased to have Len Babin with us today to talk about physical threat and risk assessments and security in general, primarily on the physical side versus the cyber side. Len, perhaps you can tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Sure. Good morning, Norm. Len Babin. I've been a security specialist for going on 20 years after a fairly long career in the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. I work actively in security that focuses on government, bulk electric systems, and I've done extensive work in the mining industry. I specialize in physical security. So the foundation of physical security is the threat and risk assessment. So I do those extensively.
From a sales perspective, I hear questions like, I already have security. Why would I need a threat and risk assessment done?
The threat and risk assessment is the foundation of all security. If you say you have security, it means that you're securing something, and the threat and risk assessment will help you identify what you're securing and what the value of that is. So it helps to start out by identifying your assets. And once assets are identified, you can rank them by value. So if you have things of low value, there's likely not much value in protecting those. Then it goes on to look at the threats. And a threat is something that can take away your asset or harm it or render it unavailable. So it's a systematic way of identifying the threats. The threat and risk assessment is an action document and a planning document. So it's there to help you decide on what types of security you have to implement, where it has to be implemented, and it helps you plan. So, of course, security measures can be costly. So the threat and risk assessment is something that you can factor into your financial planning. A threat and risk assessment also represents diligence to senior leaders and your clients and stakeholders. So your stakeholders, if you run a professional business, expect that you're going to look after the details of security, and a threat and risk assessment can be a way for you to demonstrate your attentiveness to security.
Can't clients simply just do a security review or a security survey? Is that not sufficient?
Security has many components. We look at physical security, the security of physical things, your various assets, your buildings, your assets inside. We look at the security of your personnel. We look at the security of information. We ask questions about training and those sorts of things. So a security survey would really address about a dozen components of a security system. That occurs inside of a TRA, strangely enough. One can look at the security review, for example, and say, oh, we have 12 security cameras here, and are they doing their job? We can't know that until we have a systematic overview of the assets. Without knowing the value of the assets, a security survey might not make the right recommendations. A security survey can be done more quickly, but it should address all of the components. A survey would, in effect, identify defects possibly in the security system design, but it's not going to be all-encompassing. The TRA includes the targeted security survey. So with the TRA, you get that as well.
I'm often asked, is a TRA costly?
A TRA can be costly depending on the size of your organization. Let's walk quickly through the process. The process starts by information gathering. So if you have 1,200 employees on 2 sites, and it's going to take time to do that, the information that we gather comes from your policies and your practices, training, plans, that sort of stuff. All those things are reviewed. And then we interview employees. Employees are the people who really know your business. So very important to do interviews with them that lasts anything from 30 minutes to an hour. We do threat research. So we have specialized data banks. We use open sources. We do neighborhood reviews. So we'll walk through the neighborhood to see if any threats exist in the neighborhood. The analyst uses a formula to calculate risks and make recommendations. It's done methodologically and it takes time. The rule of thumb is about every 3 years is appropriate to do a TRA if nothing has changed. If a biker gang moves next door to you and sets up a clubhouse, then you may decide you want to do a TRA. If your operations are critical and your threats from a previous TRA are high, then it should likely be done more frequently, maybe annually would be appropriate. If there have been changes to your organization, threat environment has changed or the structure of our organization has changed, then that's a time to update a TRA. If you've acquired new clients or stakeholders, they may have an expectation that you will update your TRA. For example, if you work with the federal government, before being able to do any work, depending on what the work is, they may ask that you do a TRA.
Len, thanks for that. Gives me some insight into what a physical threat and risk assessment would require and how frequently to do them. Share with us feedback that you get from clients in terms of when you deliver work. Is it a document that clients simply tick in the box and throw in the corner, or does it give them meaningful advice and guidance to what steps to take and how to ensure that they've got a proficient, useful environment that's going to safeguard those assets that are core to the company?
The process delivers a list of risks. These are the risks that the organization is facing. They are scored, so they're rated as high, medium, and low. It delivers a series of recommendations to reduce the risks. My experience has been that clients welcome this report. They review it in detail and they provide feedback to me. They've gone through something that's been systematic and detailed, and they have a series of recommendations that they can work with. So they have recommendations that they can take to the company masters to say, look, we have this risk, and we've been given 3 recommendations on how to reduce it, and I would like to use this recommendation to reduce it down to medium or low or whatever it is. So my experience is that there's been some very good feedback on this, that the reports are useful. I get feedback that is surprising in a lot of ways. It's a positive thing, for everyone, I believe.
Len, thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Just want to wrap things up by saying if our clients need to reach out to us, feel free. We'll be happy to take any inquiry or address any concerns or interests that you may have. We'd be happy to chat to you. Thanks. Have a good day, everybody.